Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. I know we're starting a little bit later here, but we want to make sure that everyone had time to be able to join us today. We really want to be able to thank you for joining our webinar, Markets Talk. Are you listening? I'm Harvey Manuel. I'm the head of marketing here at Quid. Our presenters today are our CEO, Anthony Lai, who will set up the context of our discussion, and also our senior product manager, Darren Russell, who will show off our exciting new capabilities. So before we jump into the discussion, we want to go over some housekeeping. You'll notice that you do have a Q&A widget on your screen. And what we encourage you to do is throughout the webinar, if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in there. We'll try to get those questions as much as we possibly can during the webinar, and if not, at the end of the session as well. And then if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide, Darren, last bit of housekeeping here is we do have a couple of upcoming events. So we do have a webinar at the end of this month, which we encourage you to register for now. You'll find this at our events page. And then if you happen to be going to Retail Rebels in New York at the end of October, we encourage you to also stop by our booth. We'd love to say hello and have a quick chat with you. So with that out of the way, I'll go ahead and I'll hand it off to Anthony.
Great. Well, welcome everybody. It's a real pleasure to be able to sort of talk to you all. I think that the primary purpose of today's session is really to sort of to talk really about the obvious necessity of brands and agencies and partners getting critical visibility to trends and insights, and really then to sort of talk a little bit about the challenges with how the market, how the companies like ours and others have historically sort of empowered you or challenged you to find these insights, and then really to sort of share with you something that I'm very particularly proud of, which is sort of how we have reimagined that particular problem in this modern sort of AI era, in this sort of this sort of fundamental construct of sort of outcome first and outcomes always. So trends and insights, as you all know, can make or break a particular brand, can make or break a particular season or a particular category. And when they work incredibly well. When you are on a trend, as this particular example states, it gives the brand the ability to capture a significant amount of market share. Where other brands have not had that same visibility, they can't line their customer experience up to the opportunity. They can't bring in the necessary inventory to capitalize on the opportunity. Within Target, it was actually written in their 10Q, one of their quarterly earnings reports, that they capitalized on a mob wife opportunity. Now, while the consumer was interested and excited with mob wife, the retailers didn't understand or comprehend that. Target uniquely capitalized on mob wife, created categories, put products into those categories so that when the consumer came to Target and asked either online or in store about mob wife, there was a sort of a selection of products. And that's the sort of difference between really operating your business outside in and letting the consumer shape the business, as opposed to exclusively or in a limited way operating your business outside, sort of inside out, where you are presenting products in a taxonomy in a location that makes sense to you but may not make sense to the customer. If you go to the next slide, another similar great example, a customer of ours, actually, Yum Brands. Greg Creed, the former CEO, came to us and really felt that this fundamental shift of moving from sort of what the company thought about itself to what the market thought about itself would give it a fundamental competitive advantage. And that's exactly what it did, was it let the trends shape the business. It let the insights create the campaigns. So everything that came from the Yum organization was in response to or based around a prediction of what the market was saying. And it makes good sense. If you think about it, we are all, I think, market driven. That very few of us are inventing something. Most of us are trying to displace, dislodge, gain share within an existing market segment. And so these trends and insights are, as all of you probably know, significant. They make a huge difference. And these are two great examples of where they worked. Let's just sort of talk about some obvious ones where they didn't work, where the brands missed. And these are sort of case studies that probably all of you know of, but these are sort of significant global brands that missed the trend, that couldn't capitalize on the insight, and their businesses fell apart. In some cases, they went out of business. And these were sort of simple, but very, very critical insights and trends that these organizations failed to accept. And this is what happens when there is a disruption or a discontinuity, when something happens within a particular market. Most legacy organizations will sort of deny it. They won't accept it, or they'll put it in a small box, and it'll make them feel good to know that they've read it and they understand it. But missing trends and missing insights are so fundamental to a company's failure. And if you're not prepared to take advantage or to listen to the market can do significant damage to your product, to your brand. So what I wanted to do was then, if you go to the next slide, discuss how. So if trends and brands are so important, how good a job have vendors like us and others been really focused on your outcomes? Well, I'm not sure we were, and I'm not sure, we've really served our customers in the way that they expect or should demand to be served. It's really interesting when I speak to customers and I ask them what are their outcomes, they're quite surprised. Most of them have said, well, I try and tell you my problem, but you ask me how many seats do I want, and I don't know how many seats I want. So really ask yourself, how aligned are the vendors to your desired or requested outcomes? It always baffled me that this is such a complicated problem, that why should we just sort of give you the tools and wish you the best of luck? What I hear time and time again is the tools are complicated because the data set is complicated. And the resources that are assigned to use these tools never have enough time or resource to succeed. What also baffled me was, if insights are so critical, if it's the fundamental delivery, it's the fundamental value of what we are trying to do, why do the tools vendors make you go to all these lengths to publish all of your found efforts in PowerPoint? Once that PowerPoint leaves that inbox of yours and goes somewhere else, it's immediately out of date. The other problem I've seen in vendors is that they've sort of held their sort of IP in a very tight sort of stonewalled environment, and made the customers and made the partners go to excessive lengths to customize and to configure and to tailor. And I don't think that's the right thing to do. I really think that customers should measure their vendors, their partners, by their alignment financially and technically to the desired outcome of the particular initiative or initiatives. And this, I think, is one of the biggest and most fundamental changes that we're seeing in the technology segment, one that's been heavily stimulated by AI, the technology and the business model. And it's so refreshing to start with the customer's desired outcome. So if you go to the next slide, what have we been doing? Well, I came into the business just over a year ago, and I asked the company, what are our customers' outcomes? Do we know for every single customer, for every single prospect, what is that outcome? How can we align uniquely to our customer? How can we take the burden of a lot of this complexity away from them? Why aren't we owning the models? Why aren't we updating the models? Why are we making our customers go to these sort of great lengths to understand a complex problem when we ourselves understand it because we've built the technology, we understand the data sets and the rapid changes that go on? So why don't we start to guarantee that these models are updated every single day? Let's stop making the customer or partner customize. Let's add forward deployment engineers to our core engineers. And Darren will talk a little bit about this factory concept. Why don't we take responsibility for finding insights, adding context to those insights, and giving those contexts, those contextual insights and trends to our customers. Why don't we try and fundamentally break down the barriers of business intelligence? I can't tell you how many, sort of dashboards I've been presented in my tenure in this industry. Very little, if any, had any intelligence. So let's give the ability for our customers, for our users, a larger population of our users to talk to their market in natural language. And if we spot an opportunity to build a particular workflow that takes away a significant amount of time-consuming work, let's build it. Let's build it for our customers and let our customers action these particular workflows. And instead of sort of, working on our own sort of business model, let's align our business model to our customers' business model. Let's price ourselves based on success, based on usage, based on adoption, based on value. Let's not burden our customers with a translation of value into seat count or modules. And that's what's driven us to sort of to fundamentally transform ourselves to be an organization that, as the heading suggests, we are relentless, we are obsessed, and we are going to do whatever it takes to deliver value to our customer. That initial value in the fastest possible time we can, but to continuously deliver value to our customers each and every day, to take away a lot of the burden of sort of administration, of data quality, of the complexity of some of these analytics, and to let our customers focus in the areas that make them different, that make them unique, that give them this competitive advantage. And that's what I'm really excited to have Darren show you. So if you go to the next slide, this is something that we've been talking to our customers about now for a couple of years, and it's really starting to resonate. Our customers are really embracing this idea that we, as a technology company, can actually participate and contribute and take over certain pieces of capability that they were struggling with, that they were not able to sort of to productively use. That I want people to see us as a technology company, but not as a piece of infrastructure, not another tool that IT manages and provisions, but an intelligent resource of engineers that are focused on these outcomes. And I want us as a company to be considered part of the team, part of the success, part of the effort, whether we are improving the productivity of our users in what the industry sort of commonly calls a co-pilot, or whether we're extending the workforce and taking on particular tasks through agentic workflows. This is, I think, the future of technology, and those vendors that align to your outcomes are going to be your partners. Those that don't will remain as vendors. So it's really, really important and exciting that we all go through this transformation. If you go to the next slide. I want to introduce Darren and have Darren kind of go through the sort of the reimagination of this problem and the reimagination of the solution, and how a vendor, how a partner like us can actually demonstrate to each and every customer our obsession with insight, our relentless pursuit of insight, that everything we do is anchored around what you describe is your priority outcome. And so, having been in the industry for as long as I have, no one ever thanked me for putting CRM or ERP or HCM on their desktops. These were monotonous, time-consuming systems of record, or what I like to call systems of boring. Why can't we build a solution that does singularly focus on success? So I want to have Darren show you a system of scoring. Darren, go ahead.
Thanks, Anthony. I love that tee up. So before I dive into the demo, and I'm just going to talk through one slide here, and then I'm going to dive in because I feel like things are so much more fun and so much more interactive live. But I just want to set the stage for what we're going to explore from a product perspective and how we think about things. So on the product team at Quid, when we take a step back and think about product development, we like to think about, as Anthony said, what our customers' goals are. What are your hardest jobs to be done? What are your priority outcomes? How can we help you grow and protect your investments? Not how can we help you learn complex tools better or better create PowerPoints? How can we drive towards the answers that you actually need? And what we find is that most people don't actually want an easier AI summary. They want an answer on what their markets are saying, on what their customers want, on what trends and insights they should capitalize on to make money, to save money, to protect their brand. That's the actual priority outcome, the objective they're trying to achieve. And that's what, like Anthony said, that's what we're obsessed with, is getting customers what they need. Now, we can definitely help you get there with AI, but we wanted to stop telling our users how to learn how to use tools better and give them the outcomes instead. So that's really what we're focused on. And that's why 75% of our company are engineers. So when we look at this slide, everything we do, moving left to right, everything we do is grounded in data. We are focused on processing, building, and developing answers for you. So we leverage our technical engineering team to process that data. Then we use our outcome engineering team to focus it on customers. And then we give you the answers with our contextual briefs, with AskQ, and that within Quid Terminal. And I'm going to show you those pieces today, but know that we can integrate with or deliver data through any integration that you might want. So whether that's Slack or Teams or SQL, that's something that we can connect to as well. So on that note, let me go ahead and jump into Quid Terminal. All right, hopefully you guys can see that with me. So what we've done is developed a platform to create and update models from very large data sets that's made up of petabytes of social, news, company information, all of that data. And every one of those models is custom built for each customer and updated daily. And then those models have prompts and agents and briefs and metrics tied to them. So I'm going to walk through all of that here. But really, these models and all their services are exposed in what we call the Quid Terminal. And Terminal is your centralized hub for dynamic insights. So we want people to be able to talk to their data, to talk to their models, and we want to democratize access that way. So instead of learning how to use a tool, you can jump in and ask a question and make it much, much more seamless. So Terminal is strong and it's accurate. We don't sacrifice fidelity, but we do want to make it simple and easy to use. And a key component here, if we look at the top at priority outcomes, is that everything is customized to our client's priorities. So we can build an instance for any company and any functional area. So whether that's healthcare, automotive, sports, we can create that for you. And I'll show you a couple totally different terminals today. We'll look at one around product innovation and another one around brand. But as you can see, this one here is focused on Nestle and their priorities around product innovation. So this priority outcome is really important to our focus. It's injected into our AI. You'll see it show up in briefs. You'll see it show up in answers from AskQ. It's one of the things that makes Quid very different from using a standard model or generic model. This is all about Nestle, and it's updated daily. And so what you can see here is that for Nestle in particular, we're analyzing about 2 million data points. We've added, close to 53,000 new data points in the last day. There are two different model components applied. So those are machine learning models, things like entity detection and sentiment analysis. We're covering 44 different languages, 90 different countries, many different sources used. And all of this happens all the time. So Quid Terminal doesn't take breaks, it doesn't go to sleep, all those good things that technology can do while we take breaks and we go to sleep and then also do hard work. But we let Quid Terminal work for us in the background. So that's really what we're looking at here. And now let me dive into what I would call our main AskQ section. And actually, before I jump into this, let me talk about the general way that I like to think about what our customers are trying to do in Quid, which is be both reactive and proactive. So generally, we want to allow you to be reactive. We want our team to be scanning for the things that are important to you. We know what your goals are. We know what your outcomes are. We're going to send you briefs when something that you need to know about happens. We're going to tell you what you need to do based on that insight. But we also want to let you be proactive. So if you have a question and you want to come in and ask it, you can do that right here. Or if you're, let's say, over the weekend, for example, with Nestle, we say, what's trending in desserts? Then you can come in and talk to your data. And what you'll see here are the different models that we've put together, in this case for Nestle. So I want to know, like I mentioned, what my market is saying, what's trending in dessert. And I'll talk to my consumer model here. And this is curated, up-to-date, compliant, and complete data. And so I can go ahead and send that question through. And let me talk a little bit about what happens here. So I won't get too much into the technicality, but every model is made up of a semantic index. And what that means is that when you run a search, it's not just doing keyword matching. Like you can see these skills up at the top here. The first thing it's doing is breaking down and understanding your question. And then it's considering your question in terms of your team's priority outcomes. So Nestle is going to get a very specific answer here. And then we're looking at what we're exploring, so trending desserts. And how this functionally works is it's using vector embedding to break down your question into a series of vectors and compare that to the semantic data set that we've created and pull back the most relevant results. So you don't need to know every keyword related to desserts ever, that this can now be done in a much more efficient way. Now, when it comes to using any kind of large language model, as I'm sure most folks on the call have experienced, everything is a question of breadth, of accuracy, and of latency. And we want to be able to go to as much data as possible, and we want to be as accurate as possible. So every question you ask in here will take 1 to 2 minutes to run. And personally, from the product side, I think that's worth it. We never want to give a wrong answer. So I ran this just the other day. What do we have here? Go ahead. I have savory snacks. Here we go. What's trending in desserts? Okay, so I ran this just the other day and found a few interesting things. So this again is looking at my food conversations consumer model. And if you think about the tools, like this is something you need to understand in your market. What do they care about in desserts? And a lot of the tools that you have now, figuring out the answer to a question like this is really hard. And now, yes, you have to wait 1 to 2 minutes, but then you can know that viral Dubai chocolate and strawberry cups are trending. And we know that trust in responses is really important. So we're always going to give you examples and verbatim so you can look at original source content and see exactly what that material is from your market, from your customer. Interactive and visual desserts, global formats and cultural influences really shaping dessert consumption. A lot of different trends in here. And at the bottom, we'll see some actionable insights that we can take as Nestle. So maybe we want a culture forward frozen line extension or a protein functional dessert range, or we want to prioritize the sourcing and packaging narrative on how Nestle prides itself on sustainability. And that's something that's resonating with this global dessert audience. So really tailored not only to the question, but also to the customer and what they're specifically trying to achieve. So that's a little bit about Ask. Now, I'm sure many of us have been in the situation. I have definitely been in the situation where your CEO says, hey, I want to report on desserts now, or I want to report on global desserts. You told me that that was important. Tell me more about the Japanese market. And so what Q agents are agentic multi-step workflows that you can run at the push of a button. So here we might say, I want to open up my media coverage analysis because I need to know how the markets are talking about the food category, specifically in relation to Japanese desserts. And then you can go ahead and click submit. And the beauty of this and the beauty of having agentic workflows, I'll show you how this works on the back end, is you wait 15, 30 minutes, and then you'll get a report back right in your terminal. We'll also email it to you in your inbox to make things easy for you. And our goal here is, instead of having to go to another analyst on your team and wait hours or days for a follow-up, or go to our team and wait hours or days for a follow-up, that you can do that really simply through these agentic workflows right in the tool. And I'll just jump to a slide for 1 second to show you kind of, people usually ask what's going on in the back there. And so it's basically, you can choose from our available Q agents, our workflows. You put in the inputs to customize it to the things that you care about. And then we do all of this fun stuff for you in the background. And I think what's critical here as well is if you want to customize your own workflow, there's something you're running consistently, you want to be able to do it at the push of a button, you think that there should be 7 more steps in here. We can build something custom for you. Again, we're customer obsessed. We will build the things that you specifically need, but we also have these Q agents out of the box that then result in these briefs for you. Let me jump back to terminal here. So that's a bit on Q agents. And then what those result in are these Q briefs here. And the briefs can either come from the agents that you can choose to trigger on demand, or they can be things that you've agreed with our outcome engineering team. And so these are our engineers who are constantly doing the analysis to find the insights that you care about most. So in this case, what we're looking at here is we focused on desserts, Japanese desserts. We want to know more about mochi. And I think what, let's see here. There we go. It wouldn't actually be a live demo if something didn't go wrong. That's how you guys know that it's in real time. Okay, so taking a look at this dynamic brief here, I think what's really key is that, go ahead and close it out. I think what's really key is that we can include in this any information you want. So we know that this has a 45% increase year over year. We're going to define for you exactly what's happening in Japanese sweets, what the mission is, the trend catalyst, the metrics associated with it, keywords to help you with SEO. If there are particular posts from social that can help paint that picture, whatever you want in this format, our team can create for you. And if you want to receive it in a data feed or a PowerPoint or whatever it is, we can do that as well. But this dynamic interface is available. All right. And then the last piece here, when I think about needing to know what my market cares about is, okay, you've identified mochi for me. Should I still care about that? Do I still need to care about this particular dessert? And what we call these are Q metrics. And I like to think about them as sort of the hero analytics that I need to see. Of very few customers that I talk to still actually want a dashboard or want another dashboard, really want they know what they want are, these are the primary things that I care about. Let me understand, does this still matter? So we can tell you, we surfaced mochi, dry yogurt, and prebiotic snacks as trends that Nestle needs to be aware of. And you can come in and sort, for example, by post total volume, and we can see that, yes, mochi very much is having quite a bit of conversation. This is something that I still need to be aware of. I want to pay attention to this. Prebiotic snacks has lots of positive sentiment. People really, really like it, but there's just not that much conversation about it anymore. We can consider that as we move forward. So that's an example of a terminal here. Now what I can go ahead and talk to, what people are usually interested in, is how do we do this? Like, how do we identify these insights? How do we create these briefs? And I'll show you as well, it's a good example of how we can create any terminal focused on anything that you particularly care about. So the example that I'm going to show next is of a brand terminal. It's a brand that I can't share publicly in a webinar, so I've blinded it. But we found a really important trend for them around hair care sales that I want to show today. So if we look here, kind of e-com demo merchandising, we're going to see different responses because this particular brand's focus is on optimizing sales in Gen Z consumers, identifying white space for differentiation and growth. We have 19 different models set up for this particular brand. And one of the things that we uncovered for them was that hair gloss was a really important trend that they needed to know about. So we can tell them what's trending, why it's trending. We can show them related trends. And there's that question that I get that's, how do we do this? And so I can show you all the tools that we use to identify these trends here. And I think what's key is if you want access to these tools, we can definitely give you access to these tools. If you want answers and you just want the brief in your inbox, we can give you the brief right in your inbox. So when we're coming up with trend, there's a couple of different things that we look at. So we have these radars constantly running over whatever our customer's priority area is. What is the market you care about? We will constantly be scanning for you. So in this case, one of the areas that we were scanning for this client was around beauty and personal care and hair care. And so we get this long list of trends. We can see the trend type. There's a lot of data science happening in here to see the trend type, to get a trend score, look at different post volumes, reoccurrence. How is that trend over the last couple of weeks? And then we see what we notice. And I think what's important here is there's a couple different layers. We can send this to you automatically, but we also have our expert team of engineers looking through this and adding that layer of human review. So there are some things that AI can do autonomously really well, and there are some things that's just helpful to have an expert looking at, and that's what our outcome engineering team is there for. So they can review this list and say, you know, what stands out is glossy hair strands. What's going on in here? So we can see this trend. We can look at the summary of it. We can see that it has something to do with a restorative glass blowout, which is a phrase that I had not heard before, focused on glossy, healthy hair and particular products. We can see that it's steady and growing, and it's looking like something that I might be interested in. Now, the next thing that I want to do is go ahead and validate that. So we'll take a trend and we'll send it through our validation methodology. And what we're seeing here is a validation dashboard. So I can see for glossy hair that it still has positive sentiment, that it's generally steady and emerging. When I look at the variety of sources where this is showing up, is it just in one source? And I can see that it's got a healthy spread across Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, news, all of that good stuff. And that there's strong Google interest. And we can verify this as well through things like, is it trending on Pinterest? So all those different data sources so that you're not looking in isolation. And then what I like to do when I find a trend that I like is to go ask about it. So I'll go into my TikTok topic here and say, what are the trends related to shiny, glossy hair? And I actually intentionally left this typo in here because I don't know about when you guys use ChatGPT, but I don't have time to fix all my spelling. And what's great is that you can just type in your question, you can be in a rush, and we will still give you that right answer. So I can see that there's gloss and moisturizing hair products, there's oil and gel synergy, there's hydration and layering, all of these things that weave together this particular narrative on glossy hair, everything I need to know. And then I can ask Quid to pull metrics for me, potential impressions, or to generate a network. And now I can literally visualize the relationships between these different topics that are coming up in this hair care conversation. So oil and gel is really close to conversations around mousse and curl cream, but there's also this separate cluster of conversation around hair oil and scalp care that we know is trending on social. So these are all ways that I, as a retailer, when I'm trying to think about how to connect with my markets, I can understand, one, these products are really important. Two, if somebody comes to my site and searches for glass hair, as opposed to hair gloss, that needs to be something that shows up. And so now all of that insight is in a dynamic Quid brief here. And we know that it's really important not only to get the insights from our team, but to be able to collaborate with your team. So when you find something interesting, what can you do with that? So really simply be able to share it with either other users in your account or just copy a link and share that out, to add comments and collaborate with your team. Say, Ryan, please dock this in AZ location. You can also really easily collaborate with our team if you need. If there's something that you want your Quid engineering team to follow up on, you can just @Quid and get in touch with us. And then also be able to ask any questions that you might need as well. So we have Ask Q here, who works as your co-pilot. So here's where you might be able to say, generate a 5-bullet point summary I can share with the C-suite. And so what happens here is Ask Q can read through all of your brief, read through this content, and be able to answer questions for you. And we think what's quite nice about this is, again, focusing on your goals, your efficiency, your time savings. Instead of having to reach out to our team or to read through and think about that yourself, you can just Ask Q right here. It'll tell you rising trend in hair gloss products, 50% increase year over year. I can take this, copy it, share it in an email, whatever I might need to move forward from there. So again, if you want access to these underlying tools, we can give you access to those underlying tools, or our team can do the work and give you the answers. Just really a vast amount of engineering work happening to find the right signals and then let our customer capitalize on those answers. So overall, I know I just talked a lot, but kind of to wrap that up, we are hyper-focused on our customers and what your goals are. Like that is our driving focus. We want to make it easy for you to get to the answers that you need. So not just easier to use tools. Tools that are easier to use is certainly a part of that, but our driving force is really getting you to insight. And we want to let you be both reactive and proactive. So we want to send you the answers that you need and have our team work and our terminal work for you around the clock. And then also give you a space to come in and get the answers that you want in a single question or a report at the click of a button, things that you can now do in minutes instead of in days. All right. If I just jump back to slides here. Anthony, should I pass it to you?
Thanks, Darren. That was great. Look, I mean, I love what we've done. I think really for me, the sort of manifestation of this sort of engineered outcome was to present a sort of a canvas, something that sort of let the user ideate, consider, debate, suppose, and not to sort of to weigh them down with overly complex tabs and subtabs, to put them through endless configurations or customizations. The idea was like, let's just start with the end result, the desired outcome, and work backwards. What you'll see is a lot of companies are sort of taking legacy product and just adding AI features, and that's not the right way to do it, because you're still going to be encumbered by the structure and the bureaucracy of a legacy tool. What I hope you saw, and what really excites me about this, is a sort of singular and absolute focus on success. And it's not just success in terms of you bought something, it's deployed. It's really about you bought something, what has it delivered? And then what has it delivered again? And what has it delivered again? And what's really interesting about this and about trends, in general, is one way to think about it, it is sort of you as business people, me as a business person, the impact of not being able to monitor, to talk, to discuss, to suppose and consider, strategies with your market. If you didn't do that, I mean, just look at that number. 123 million data points were analyzed, but in the last 24 hours, over 20 million more data points entered this particular model. This is not something that GPT or Claude or any of the others will do. Their models are anchored many, many months, sometimes years ago. We are casting a net specific to each customer, specific to each problem, and updating it. Now, the corollary, the similar, the example of this is like, if the stock market changed as much as your market changed, what impact would that have on you as a person? And so what we really feel is this, our mission, our reason for being is to provide our customers with actionable insights that drive profitable outcomes. And we will do everything we can as a company to engineer those, not to throw things over the wall, not to wish you the best of luck, but to absolutely put our commitment on the line, to put our value on the line, to be part of your team, to deliver on the things that are most important to you across your entire enterprise, to give you the ability to capitalize on these insights and on these trends. Not once, but every single minute of every single day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Quid, its technology, its AI, and its engineering resources are singularly focused on our customer success. And that's something, I'll be honest with you, in my career, building SaaS applications, I haven't been able to say before. I mean, let's be honest. Has Salesforce.com ever helped a salesperson sell anything? Has NetSuite in ERP ever helped you collect anything. They are, as I can describe them, as systems of boring. They're not exciting. They're not driven to partner with you to solve your particular problem. And I'm excited that what we're doing and a few other companies are now doing is really focused on what I call these systems of scoring. Let's score. Let's do everything we can singularly to meet and exceed your objectives. And that's what we've tried to put together with Quid. And I'm super excited. And Darren, thank you so much for showing it. It's been really great. I don't know, Harvey, if we've got questions, but maybe we've got time for a couple.
Yes, we absolutely do. And while I'd love to ask Darren more about restorative glass blowout, maybe we'll take that one offline. We've got a couple of other pressing questions here from the audience, and I encourage you all too. The Q&A is still open, so feel free to pop your questions in there. But the first question here is for Anthony. It's from Ricardo. He asked, you talked a lot about outcomes and the complexity and failures of SaaS tools. Can you give everyone an overview of how this drove Quid to shift their positioning away from tools to outcomes?
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to spend time in my career at Palantir, very successful company, and I think the big shift is that we as a software business historically had very strict boundary conditions over what we would do and what we would demand of a customer or a partner. And that would lead to sort of this excessive amount of customization and configuration that put the customer at risk. When we upgraded, when we made changes, when the customer wanted a particular piece of functionality, we in product would sort of evaluate it and oftentimes deny it and lead the customer to third parties that would go and customize it. And that, I think, is a fundamental problem for customers. It isn't what the customer wants. The customer wants intellectual property that's engineered, that's protected, that it's enhanced, and that's enriched. So what we did was we kept our core engineering function and we added an outcome engineering function. These are engineers. They code. They do the work to build intellectual property and capability directly for each of our customers. And the things that we do for each of our customers is then fed back into the main code line and protected and upgraded and enhanced and enriched. So to me, every single organization is going to have to extend their core engineering capabilities with these wonderful forward deployed engineers who do this work specific for customers.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Anthony. Let's get to our next question here. This one it's from Brooke. This one looks like it's intended for both you, Anthony, and Darren, but what are your favorite features? Why? And what are some of the things that you're hearing from your customers?
Yeah,
Go ahead,
I
Darren.
can go first from the product side of this. I love this question. So one of the favorite things that I've observed is how much easier it is to get to insight now. So every time I hear people talk about how something used to take them 5 hours and now it takes them 30 minutes, like that is magic. That is my goal. That I'm trying to figure out how I can screenshot it or write it down so that I can share it with Anthony. Like that's what we're trying to do with customers. So I think that, and I quite literally was on a customer call yesterday where they were talking about how this new interface meant that they could share it with another team that they hadn't shared our tools with before because they felt like the tools were too complicated for them to use. And so now that person they felt could come in, talk to the models, get the answer they needed without being blocked from it before, like they had been before. So it was really all about democratizing access in that case. So I think those are two things I really love. And I'll say the most personally surprising thing is the very positive reception to the dynamic interactive format of briefs. I spent a long time working in consulting and I just thought people would die before they left their PowerPoint decks. And people have really liked the new layout, the new format of it. So I was very happy to be proven wrong there, which is always something I kind of like in product. I like to learn from customers. And we can still deliver things in PowerPoint or data feed, whatever you want. But I was pretty pleasantly surprised how many people were interested in this new way of receiving, interacting with, sharing insight. That's my thought.
Well, to me, Darren made special note of it at the start, probably because I'm on the call, but I love the fact that for the first time, an application respects the desired outcome. And I don't know about each of you, but I've written objectives for companies and they end up in PowerPoint and they end up in email and they're forgotten or they're not considered in everything that we do. So that simple, determined sort of like field that says, what is your priority outcome? And then the idea of using that as an input to every single thing that happens, to every single prompt, to every single workflow, to every single brief, to every single metric, I think is really, really cool. I haven't seen that before in an application. And the idea that sort of you can go in and change your desired outcome, or two people within the same company using the same model can have two different priority outcomes, and they will receive different answers. They will receive different briefs. Workflows will do different things. That to me is really, really exciting. And so consider a marketing organization where you've got one person responsible for competition, one person responsible for brand, and one person responsible for a geography. The same technology responds differently to each of those particular persons or people's priority outcomes. That's what I think is super exciting. Super, super exciting.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Darren and Anthony. I'm going to shuffle a couple of questions around here because I think a few of them were actually answered over the course of the webinar, but I wanted to make sure that we also covered Maria's question here. She was asking, is it possible to schedule a daily update of searches on a certain topic or brand? Also, how can I connect the tool with any dashboard, Looker Studio, Power BI, etc.?
Yep. So scheduling a daily update, or if we want, a brand health report or whatever it might be on whatever cadence that you're looking for, that's something that we can easily do with our team. And then depending on how you want to connect the tool to your dashboard. So are you looking for, you want to pipe in your data to Quid Terminal? Do you want it to feed into what's powering the brief, to have that be a part of the model that you can go ahead and talk to through Quid? All of these integrations are, like Anthony is saying, with the concept of a forward deployed engineer. It's our engineering team talking to you, figuring out what it is you need to get answers, to get insight, and figuring out how we can connect.
Awesome. Thanks, Darren. All right. Next question here. This one's from Terry. Is there anything you're able to share about what else is on the roadmap for Quid this year?
Yeah. Yes, lots of exciting things. So first, we're always making Quid, or Q within Quid, smarter. So you can have more sophisticated questions, you can have deeper reporting style responses, things like what's driving social engagement for my brand, or I want to really easily pull quantitative metrics. You'll also be able to, in a much simpler way for those coming from the Discover side of the house, generate networks. So being able to talk to Q and ask more and do more in a really simple chat interface. We're also building out our Q agent library. And so there, for folks on the line as well, like, what are the answers that you wish you could get with the click of a button? So things like a brand health report or 4Cs. We've heard that from customers, and that's in progress. So we're always happy to hear from you. Like, what are the things that would be most valuable to you? What do you want to see in that library? What would you like us to build? And that's kind of a direction that we can point our team in. And then the third exciting piece is MCP integration. So I've been playing with this a lot this week, but we want Ask You to be where you're working. So you can come to Quid Terminal and talk to Ask, or it could be in Teams or in Slack. So again, really that focus on democratizing usage. You can give access to talk to models that you've vetted, that you feel confident in, to different offices, different sales teams, support teams. If they can chat in Teams or they can chat in Slack, then they can talk to our models. I think those are the three big ones that I'm excited about.
Awesome, Darren.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I think just to further on Darren's point, I think my dream is sort of, to have a market model or multiple models is a very important thing, but to sort of to give open access to these things, to allow a salesperson in a particular region facing a particular challenge with competition, or a product innovator within a CPG organization, to give them this sort of rich data set, curated, managed, maintained, and executed by us, presents enormous opportunity. If you're a product person, you've had this desperate need to talk to your market, and the only options you've ever had have been like a focus group or a survey or a conference. And the problem is you're dictating the narrative and you're not listening. So what we bring to these people is a true and accurate representation of what your market thinks about you, and how you can then best change, adjust your strategies to align to your market. So there's enormous amounts of power in our data, but through the sort of the legacy SaaS architectures, that power has been restricted. And what I wanted to do was open it all up to make this thing available to anyone who can type in natural language, to empower organizations to have as much insight to what's going on outside as they do on the inside. If you think about it, Harvey, people spend so much money collecting data on the inside of their organizations to make better decisions. We're the equivalent of that on the outside. And I don't know about you, but I cannot live without a market model. I want to know what's going on in my market multiple times a day. And I don't want to have to ask someone else to do that. I want to be able to do that myself. And that's what we've enabled in Quid.
We've got one more question here. I do recognize that we're quite a bit over time, but I'm glad that we have all these questions coming in. I wish that this wasn't anonymous, but yeah, it looks like it disappeared here. But I'm assuming this is from a customer. But how do we go about using slash getting Quid Terminal if we already use Discover slash Monitor manually ourselves?
Yeah,
Very simply, just send an email. Yeah, send an email to us, to your account rep. Reach out. We will get you set up. It doesn't take very long at all, and we'd love to get your feedback. So, we're excited to use Discover and Monitor in your models. We can bring in and semantically index those models, so you'll have the best of both worlds: the IP that you've created, plus the engineered IP that we create every single day, and both of those will feed directly into Terminal.
Awesome. All right. Well, we'd like to thank you all once again for joining us for our webinar today. And obviously, thank you to Anthony and Darren for joining us and leading the presentation. I do encourage you all, once again, check out our events section, because we do have upcoming events and webinars that we'd love to be able to meet you at and speak to you and engage with you at. So please have a look, and hopefully we end up seeing you all again soon. Like I said, end of the month, we've got another webinar, and we hope to see you all again there. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.